All right, welcome everybody to tonight's Kaizen coaching training. My name is Jeremy Jenkins, and I am super excited to be able to share with you some insights. We're going to dive into the history of finance and monetary systems. We're going to see kind of the evolution, where it started years ago and where it's gone and where it's going and how that affects all of us. And we're going to see if we can't prepare ourselves and be ready for things as they change and evolve. So I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation here. This is the future of finance, Kaizen coaching by Jeremy Jenkins, of course. But we need to be prepared, right? We need to understand the monetary system and understand why it's breaking, because this is something that this is not new. This is not something that is like, oh, only because of the current administration or only because of the current policy. This is something that's been going on literally for decades, and it's part of a cycle that actually happens in all empires throughout the centuries, right? So we're at a certain point in this cycle that's been going on for thousands of years, and we just need to be prepared. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of what's happening here. So the financial system is changing, and it's all about the macro history with money and why preparation, what we can do to be ready for the inevitable. Okay, it's not about hype or fear. I'm not trying to scare anybody. That's not what we're talking about here. But it is about understanding history, understanding cycles, and how we can prepare calmly and intelligently for what will happen, right? It's not a question of if, but when. And we know that there are several enemies of wealth, but inflation is the worst one. Okay. That's unfortunately something that's a reality right now, and it's not going away. Okay. Unless something drastic happens. And we're going to talk about that because the problem is bigger than crypto, right? We've talked in previous trainings and things about okay, the future of rewards and why blockchain is so important and everything. But what we're talking about tonight is bigger than that. This is a macro problem, right? Because it's not about just okay, crypto and having something to kind of move away from the dollar and all that. This is about markets, right? This is what we're talking about. And markets don't move randomly. They follow monetary policy, right? They follow debt cycles and they follow human behavior. So when we talk about cryptocurrencies and we talk about non-inflationary assets, things like Bitcoin or other types of it could be just precious metals, right? We could be talking about gold and silver, actual tangible items. But the whole concept here is that these, that what people are trying to do and what the wealthy are trying to do, it's not the cause, it's a response. Okay. And that's really what's happening. If we don't understand the system, we're all going to react emotionally. But if we do understand it, then we prepare for it, right? We just simply prepare for it. And that's the thing, is because it, whenever something drastic happens, it really is just money moving around, right? And so when they say, oh, the stock market's collapsing, right? Well, what that is money moving out of the stock market into something else, okay? Or, oh no, Bitcoin's dropping. Well, what's happening when Bitcoin's dropping? Oh, it's because people are moving out of the Bitcoin and they're moving into something else, right? Probably gold or silver or something. So all it is just money moving around. Okay. And so in the housing crisis, what happened? Oh, the banks, right, they moved that money into other things, and it caused the housing crisis in 2008. So if we understand these things, we can position ourselves so that, because like whenever there's a crisis on one side, there's other people getting rich on the other side, right? In the stock market, there's buys and there's puts, right? So there's people that are basically gambling to say, hey, you know what? I think that stock is going to go down. So they put a put on it. And then when the stock goes down, they actually earn money, right? Because they bet against it. And so that's what happens in the marketplace. That's what happens when you're talking about, cycles and stuff. So we just have to be smart. We just have to understand what's happening and protect ourselves that way. All right. So it all started, though, really our current cycle in 1901 with the rise of centralized power, right? This was a big turning point. This is when America entered the age of industrial monopolies and financial power began concentrating into fewer hands. The banking elites, they started to have way more influence over government, right? And this era set the stage for centralized financial control. And wealth increasingly flowed upward, not outward. Okay. So that was kind of the start. That was the turning point. Then in 1913, what happened? The Federal Reserve was created. Okay. And the reason it was created was to stabilize the economy, because this is fascinating if you can kind of compare to today. Before 1913, there was actually a chaotic mix of currencies in circulation. Okay. There were state banknotes, there were gold and silver coins, there were national banknotes, right? They called them greenbacks. It was kind of messy. There was all kinds of different things, and people didn't really, like, okay, what is the real value of these things, right? It wasn't set, it wasn't defined. It was kind of like today, right? Today in our crypto world, we've got, there's Ethereum and Bitcoin and, all these different kinds of things. Oh, Solana, right? And what it was, there was this chaotic mix of currencies, right? Different stable coins, you could call them today. And it was causing problems, right? There was confusion. People weren't sure, what things were worth what. And so what happened? Well, the United States gave control of the money supply to a centralized bank. Okay. So Congress passed overwhelmingly the Federal Reserve Act. Right. It passed, it was like 80% of the Congress voted in favor. And then, of course, Woodrow Wilson, who was the president, he signed it, right? He signed it into law. Now, you could say it was good. Some people say it's bad, but the Federal Reserve was created. It was, if you're wanting to see the glass half empty or half full, you could see the positive. You could say, okay, they did it to stabilize. They did it to, to define what currency was and move away from all the confusion, right? Have one central currency, $1 that everybody agreed on, everything. So there's some positive things, but it also caused some problems, right? And because from that moment forward, money could be created out of thin air, backed by debt, not value, right? During this time, they bought up all the gold, right? They said, okay, if you have actual gold, turn it in because you can't use it anymore, right? Trade it for this paper money that we've created for you. So, you could argue for and against, and our point tonight is not to defend or criticize the Federal Reserve, and that's a political thing. All we're saying tonight is that it was a change. It was a change in the cycle that kind of put us into a new direction that then took us into what we call money created from debt. Okay, so now you have every single dollar created is just debt, and there's inflation because it becomes unavoidable, right? So savers tend to lose purchasing power, but asset owners tend to benefit. Okay, so that's where you have to educate yourself. That's where you have to understand, okay, so this is what's happening. So I need to, if you've ever read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or any of those things, or the cash flow quadrant, you understand, okay, I need to get into assets, which are, money producing things. And okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or assets that, that retain their value, right? Because otherwise inflation it's not an accident. It's part of it. It's built into the system. Okay. So what are the consequences? Well, it affects everything, right? From house pricing, higher household debt, financial crisis, right? You've got more chance of recession, other things, and not that they didn't before, right? And that's where, I'll be a little bit of the devil's advocate here and say, okay, before 1913, before the Federal Reserve, there was definitely still monetary abuse. There were definitely still problems with unemployment and all those things, but it definitely, didn't solve everything. Okay, taking the dollar into one is probably good. It's better, right? But it had other consequences. So it's not. We'll just say it's not good or bad. It was just a new reality, and people had to learn the system to be able to take advantage of it. All right. So the next thing that happened was in 1971, Nixon ended the gold standard, right? So it took it to that next level of, oh, now it's not backed by physical gold. Now it's pure fiat currency, right? And money printing was no longer constrained. So today they call that quantitative easing, right? And that's basically where the Federal Reserve now can print more money. Okay, they just add more dollars into the system. And so what does that do? Well, it kind of gives, a little bit of buoyancy, right? It kind of jumpstarts the economy a little bit, but also over everything, it becomes it kind of like a tax on everybody, because now the dollar is worth less, right? And so and we all pay for it, rich and poor, everybody's paying for it because your dollars are just worth less. So after 1971, money had no anchor, right? Only trust. So, okay, again, pros and cons, right? Positive, negative to it all. But if you know how to use the system, it can actually be a pro. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So the consequences we see, of course, is everything goes up, right? Rising cost of living, there's asset bubbles, there's bank instability, there's constant emergency interventions, right? Each crisis requires more money printing. Each solution creates bigger future problems, okay? So that's kind of the bad side of all of this that we see, is that the dollar is worth less and less and less every day. If you have money just sitting in a bank account, it's losing value, right? It's going down in value. And so what can we do? What can we do to protect ourselves? Well, that is where this response came in, right? Why blockchain and Bitcoin started to exist. So 2008 was kind of like, okay, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. This is like, okay, we got to do something. We got to figure out a way to fight back against this. So we all know the story. Mr. Satoshi went and he created this idea of a blockchain with digital rewards and decentralization, right? And Bitcoin was born. And so now what happens is Bitcoin, because it has a fixed supply with no central authority and it was transparent and verifiable, wow, now there's some trust, right? And so crypto exists because trust in traditional systems is breaking. And that's the beauty of blockchain. That is the beauty of Web 3.0. That is the beauty of having non-inflationary assets, right? Different types of crypto tokens or coins and other things like actual physical silver and gold and others, where people can say, okay, I'm not going to put my money in the dollar. I'll use the dollar for purchasing, But thanks to technology now, we have other ways to protect our money, to protect our wealth, right? We can put it into things that actually are going up in value. So in this situation, you can see the graphic, right? The $20 bill, it buys you less and less and less, but a Bitcoin over time has actually gone up in value and can get you more and more and more, right? And that is what we're trying to do. That's the message, is how do we protect ourselves? Because history repeats. Why? Because human nature doesn't change. All right. These cycles always happen. Every generation thinks, oh, this time will be different. But what happens? Fear and greed drive those decisions, and those who prepare early can remain calm. The cycle isn't ending, it's just repeating, right? The scale is just larger than before. There's a lot more of us. Money, is digital now. Countries are talking to each other more, right? It's a lot easier to send money back and forth. So it's a bigger scale. Okay. But we have to understand the psychology of a market. And it's just, this is what happens over and over again. Why empires, right? From the Roman Empire, Great Britain, right? They all have their rise and then they have their fall, all because they go through these cycles. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to prepare. We're not going to panic. We're going to educate ourselves, right? We're going to learn the history. We're going to understand money. We're going to diversify intelligently. We're going to avoid emotional decisions, okay? Because those who understand the system prepare early, and those who don't will panic later. So if you're ready to start preparing, okay, there is a solution and a system. So if this is sounding intriguing, well, stay connected, because now we're going to dive into something that, for me and a lot of people I work with, is working. We think it's a great way to be on the asset side of things versus the liability side of things. And this is just one way to do it. It's not the only way, but it is definitely a great way to get involved right from the beginning of something that is a trend right now, which is to adopt this new world of blockchain and crypto and Web 3.0, but not in the sense of something kind of scary or scammy or risky or any of that. It's a new way to kind of look at this concept of blockchain and how we can participate from just the everyday average person, instead of having to say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go risk it all. Right? This isn't gambling. This isn't playing with funny money. This is a real, true way to make sure that you can protect yourself. One of many ways, but I think you'll find it intriguing. So if you're still interested, then thanks for sticking around, because now we're going to dive into what I think is the true future of blockchain and one of the best ways that we can participate, whether you're here in the United States or anywhere else in the world. Cirrus Networks is bringing this whole concept of protecting yourself and having I guess we could say staking a claim, right, in this new frontier, the new future of finance, the new future of wealth. So let's kind of go in and understand. As I do this, I do want to put this disclaimer up that explains that we are not promising any kind of return on investment. We're not promising any kind of, or guaranteeing any kind of monetary reward. Okay, as we go through this, this is just one way that you can participate and potentially protect yourself and your wealth and your future finances. But it is not the only way. And again, just like anything in the world, there's no guarantee, right? Whether it's gold or silver or any other kind of asset that you may want to be a part of, they could all collapse, right? The world could change, governments could outlaw things and make it impossible. We just don't know. Okay, so no guarantees here, but lots of potential. All right, so the future, right? Welcome to the future. The world is changing. It's going decentralized. We're all recognizing that, all the entities that we used to know and trust and thought that we believed in them, maybe not so much, right? Doesn't matter if it's the government itself or big tech companies. We always hear about all of them potentially being hacked, or maybe there's a bad actor, maybe there's somebody that's corrupt, maybe there's a thief, right? We just don't know. So trust in some of these big institutions, from government to public companies, doesn't matter. They all have their issues. They all have their problems sometimes, and it's kind of scary, right? And they're also expensive. Like a lot of money, whether it's from our personal data or just fees and things that they charge. They take advantage of us because that trust is expensive, and they profit while we get little in return, right? So this new future is really fascinating to me because it's going to be more fair, more transparent, and what we like to call decentralized. So what does that mean? What is decentralization? Well, you can kind of see examples of that in companies like Uber or Lyft, DoorDash, right? Airbnb. Some of these companies have used technology to say, hey, you know what? Instead of working for a taxi company or working for a hotel chain, right? I can actually do this on my own. I can give people rides using my own car, just having my phone, using an app. Or I can rent out my spare bedroom, or I have a second property I want to rent out, and just make it available to people. I can make money with that, right? Without having to get a franchise or happen to be part of some giant corporation, right? And I can do it on my own terms, my own hours, whatever. It's great. Okay, that is decentralization. That's bringing the power back into the hands of the individual. However, that's kind of it's the first iteration of it, because unfortunately you can't own those companies, right? If you drive for Uber, that's great. You can earn the money, but that's it. You just, when you stop driving, you stop earning money. Or if you don't rent out that extra bedroom on Airbnb, you're not making money, okay? Because you're not an owner. So with Web3 and true decentralization, we actually have a way to become what we call digital landlordship. In other words, we can have ownership in something in a community through the power of blockchain. Okay, so it's not just okay, trading my time, right, or a spare bedroom. It's now becoming part of a community and owning a piece of that community and benefiting from your participation in that community. Super, super fun. So what is the future of this? Well, Henry Zhang, the CEO of DigiFT, he mentions Amazon, right? We all know and love Amazon. I think we get something from Amazon at least weekly. Amazon was an online bookstore for years before it decided to sell everything, right? Tokenization will follow the same path. Tokenization, meaning putting things on the blockchain. It is going to start with simple trusted assets before it goes into the complex. In fact, Fred Earsham, who founder of Coinbase, he said everything will be tokenized and connected by a blockchain one day. And Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, said, we're at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, everything from real estate to equities to bonds, all of it, right? And then Eric Voorhees, founder of another crypto exchange, said, I'm much more confident with crypto than with banks or with fiat currency because I can actually control it. And the money supply is transparent. And it's stated up front. It makes online shopping a lot easier and a lot safer. How interesting, right? That is the future. That's where things are going. It's happening whether we like it or not. Just like the internet happened whether we liked it or not. Okay. There was a lot of people saying the internet was going to be bad, or it was a phase, just a phase or a fad, but no, we all live for the internet nowadays. Okay. So the other thing that's happening is even banking is about to go blockchain, right? I mean, we've got all kinds of companies or banks, Bank of America and several more, who have all said, "Yep, we just want stable coins. We want to be able to have the ability to transfer back and forth digitally." JP Morgan, others, right? They're all starting to participate. In fact, Bank of America says that banks must get fluent in blockchain now, because everything from bonds to stocks to cross-border payments could soon settle on chain. And then even the United States SEC, right, the Securities and Exchange Commission, has approved the request to tokenize stocks and bonds on blockchain. Okay, it's happening. It's happening. This is going to happen. We will all see it in the next few years here, that pretty much everything that we deal with will be a crypto in some form or another, right? So might as well adopt it now. And talking about positioning, if we can get in early before the masses, we're going to have the advantage, right? Now, let's talk a little bit about rewards. We all know and love getting free stuff, right? We all have apps on our phones now that, track, okay, your purchases, whether you're going to Starbucks or McDonald's or, your Sky Miles from Delta, whatever it is, we love it, right? I do. I personally, I think it's fun. I keep track of it, and I'll go get myself, a free quarter pounder at McDonald's with my points every once in a while, whatever it is, right? We love to get free stuff. Okay. And that has been around for years and years and years. Well, it's all changing. The future of rewards and loyalty is that, thanks to blockchain and this whole concept of tokenization, we can now have rewards and loyalty points that are actually valuable outside of their normal system. So instead of just saying, "Oh, I got points because I got a Happy Meal and I'm going to use those points to get a free vanilla ice cream cone at McDonald's," well, what if you could take those same points and use them other places, right? What if you could take those rewards from that you earned from McDonald's and spend them on streaming a movie? How interesting is that, right? Or spend them on travel, right? Going on a vacation, getting a discount on a hotel or something. That is the future. Okay. So we're super excited to be able to talk about how Cirrus Networks is making that possible, where your rewards are not only just valuable wherever you got them, but they could potentially even be converted into dollars and cashed out. That is the future. That's what we have with the Noti blockchain. Okay. Cirrus is the marketing arm for Noti. Noti is what we call a digital autonomous organization, a DAO, and they have a blockchain. So it's not owned by any one person or any corporation or company. Okay. Anybody that participates in the Noti blockchain is a community member and a potential owner. Okay. And all the rewards that come from participating in the community can be used inside the community for all the different products and services, but eventually they can also be monetized when they get listed on an exchange. So this powerful blockchain, the difference is that they offer AI integrated products that we all use on a daily basis that reward us, right? So now we can actually get rewarded for all kinds of things that we do anyway. All right, let's kind of dive into this a little bit more. So there's two ways to participate. You can either be an owner, or you can just be a participant, right? Ownership and or participation. In other words, just live your life and be rewarded. Now, the way you can be an owner is through what we call hosting a Noti node. So you purchase the software to host your node, and then you host it, okay? And now you're an owner and you have a voice. The other way is to just participate, right? Using the different products and services, using the tokens from the blockchain in the ecosystem, you can do that, right? You don't have to be an owner if you don't want to. But ownership also gives you a voice. You actually have a vote. There's a way to be to participate whenever there's any kind of anything to do with the governance, right, of the blockchain. If they want to add things or change things or whatever it is, they actually make it available for you to go in and vote. You can cast your vote, and the more ownership you have, the more voice you have. It's really, really fun. All right. So let's take a look at what ownership of a node looks like. Okay. So it's like a generator. The blockchain works because every node is replicating the information, right? So all the transactions that are happening within the community, whether those are financial or otherwise, those get backed up on all the various nodes that all of us as owners have. Okay. So, and it could be you live in Australia or you live in Europe or you live in the United States, doesn't matter. Anywhere in the world, you can be a node owner, and you then have a copy of all the data, all the transactions going on, and you help to power that verification system, right? That's what a blockchain does. And so now, because you are participating and because you're providing that service of being one of the many community owners, okay, you now get rewarded for that, right? And there's mechanisms in place for daily distribution of the rewards for your contribution. All right. Now, the best way to think of this is, I like this example anyway, is instead of saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to go buy a whole bunch of coins, right? I'm going to buy Bitcoin or I'm going to buy Ethereum or whatever coins out there. What we're doing as node owners is it's more like owning a golden goose, okay? The goose that lays the golden eggs. The eggs are the coins or the tokens, and the goose lays them daily. As long as you maintain that goose, right? You feed it and you give it water and shelter and everything, then that goose is going to lay the eggs for you. And that's what a node does. Owning the node, one-time purchase, and then you maintain it, right? You host it, and then it will give you daily tokens. Okay, that's what it does. Now, to purchase a node, currently the pricing is $1,197. Okay, one time. And then you pay a minimal hosting fee of about $1.97 per month. That's it, $1.97. Okay, not expensive at all. Or if you think, you know what, I just can't afford that much right now, it's kind of out of my reach, that's okay, because then you could also start with just a half node for 597. Or if that's too much, that's okay. You can do a quarter node for 297. And if that's even too much, and you're just thinking, you know what, I just want to try this out, want to see what it's like, that's okay too. You can start by getting a mini node for just $100, right? And with the mini node, they do like to kind of have you do it on a subscription. There's no obligation, no commitment. You can cancel anytime. But the idea is to kind of finance it, right? So you're saying, well, I can't afford a full node, but maybe if I buy 10 mini nodes, that would be the equivalent of a full node. And I can just kind of do that $100 every month, right, until I have the equivalent. So, but again, totally optional. If you just want to get one, want to get two, three, stop, that's fine. You can do that anytime, right? Now, the other example about this is, think of it like being a landlord, right? We call it being a digital landlord because you now have ownership in a digital landscape. But it takes us to the other analogy that I like, which is kind of like owning an apartment building. So as a digital landlord, think of owning a full node like owning a 10-unit apartment building. So you own the whole thing, right? And you're going to get rent money from all the tenants, right? All 10 units that have renters in there, they're all paying you rent, okay? 100%. But owning a half node, say that's all you can get is a half node, that's okay. That's like owning 5 of the units, okay? So you got 5 units, 5 tenants paying you rent, but maybe you can't afford that. So what about just getting one, right? Buying a mini node is like owning just one of the apartments in that 10-unit apartment building, okay? And you get the rent money from just one. So that's the analogy. Hopefully that helps. So here's a real world example. Let's say you purchase that full node, and currently, as of January 2026, those full nodes are paying out 340 tokens every day. Okay. Well, let's assume that each of those tokens is worth just a penny, 1 cent. Okay. Well, that would be $3.40 per day, or at 10 cents, let's assume that over time, each of those tokens just went up in value, just like Bitcoin did. Because if you remember the story of Bitcoin, it started, it was worth pennies, and then it was worth dollars, and then it was worth, $100, and now it's upwards of $100,000 per Bitcoin. Okay. Well, what if the Nodi token gets to 10 cents? Well, that would be $34 per day. And what if it got to $1? Let's assume, it might take some time, right? And we just don't know. It might take a year. It might take 2 years. It might take longer. But what if it did? What if each of those Nodi tokens became worth an entire dollar? Well, that would be worth $340 per day. So, but even at just 1 cent, that's $1,241 in the first year. And then those daily rewards continue for the next 19 years per the blockchain rules. So you can see at 1 cent, basically in 1 year, you kind of, you recouped your cost, and then it's just rewards after that, right? So pretty amazing concept. Now a half node, the quarter node, and a mini node, they're just literally 1/2, 1/4, and 1/10 of the same payout, right? So a half node, instead of 340, it's paying out 170, right? So that's the concept, okay? And you can own more full nodes if you want, right? You can own several half nodes, several mini nodes. It's up to you how much ownership you want to have. All right, now let's dive into something that's super compelling. This is my favorite part of all of this, is what we call the participation model, or the X1 micronodes. So this is what makes Cirrus so different from all the other blockchain projects out there. And there's lots of them, okay? And they all have a similar model where they sell nodes, right? And you can buy the node, and they all have a similar pricing point, right? So typically they're anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 to buy a full node, and and then you get those daily rewards from them and everything. And they have these projects that they're out doing, whether it's tokenizing real world assets like oil or gold or real estate or whatever. And that's great. Those are great products and great projects. But what I like personally about Cirrus and the Nodi blockchain is that we have the half nodes and the quarter nodes and the mini nodes and so on, right? Which these other companies do not. Okay, these other blockchain projects don't have anything like that. But what we also have at Cirrus that nobody else has is a concept of micro nodes, which are just everyday services that we all know and love. Okay, so we're probably all familiar with services like Dropbox or iCloud, right? Or Google Drive. These are products that, digital products for storage. Okay, we call them cloud storage, and it's where you can store your pictures and your other important files, right, in the cloud, have access to them where they're protected, backed up, so that if you ever lose your hard drive or your computer, or it crashes or whatever, you can still get access to them because they're not, in your house, right? They're actually up in the cloud. That is a great service that a lot of people use and pay for. Okay. Streaming is another one. A lot of people pay for streaming movies. A lot of people pay for doing meetings like we are right now. All right. They'll use Zoom, or they'll use Google Meet, or they use all kinds of different kinds of services to do meetings and webinars, right? A lot of people pay for travel portals. Okay. People pay for their cell phone, of course. Cell phone service is probably the most common one that we all do, right? And then, of course, we all love discount shopping and ways to save money when we go out to eat or go to the grocery store or whatever. So all of these kinds of services can now act as what we call micro nodes, where a subscription to streaming and watching movies, or a subscription to a data storage place where, like a Dropbox, or a subscription to a travel discount portal, or a subscription to your cell phone, right? Or a subscription to something like Zoom, now pays out daily rewards. So just like a full node, right, paying out 340 tokens every single day, well, guess what? Your Cirrus Safe storage also pays out. In this case, it would be 20 rewards per day just for having a subscription to something that you would pay for anyway, right? And this is just the beginning. These are just a few examples of all the different products and services that will be coming to the Node blockchain. All right. So what is a micronode? Think of it, going back to that analogy of the apartment building, think of it like a mixed use apartment. Okay. So now, instead of just having apartments with renters, what if the first level of that building had retail in it, right? What if it had restaurants and other types of businesses? Okay. You had a pizza place, right? Or an insurance person down on that first floor. Well, guess what? Now you're not only earning from renters, right? But you're also earning and getting rewarded for the commerce that is happening on the storefronts on the bottom, right? That's what these services are. People are paying for streaming, people are paying for cell phone, people are paying for travel, and that also contributes to the whole commerce of what's going on. Okay, so it's all utility driven, right? That is the key, because we don't want to be like other blockchain projects where there's nothing backing it up. There's no intrinsic value in the coin or the token, right? Nobody really knows what the value is on some of these coins, because nobody understands the project. Nobody understands what they're really trying to do, right? Well, at Cirrus Networks with Nodi, it's all about purpose-driven blockchain based on actual consumption of pure utility through actual services that we all use, right? So these subscriptions are that backbone of the economic structure. Okay, it's what gives it the utility and the value. But here's the really cool thing about it, because you could say, well, it's one thing to say, yeah, okay, I'm going to put my cell phone service or my other subscriptions, whether it's digital storage or streaming or whatever, on the blockchain. But why would I switch, right? Why would I switch from wherever I'm at to this? Well, it's the triple advantage, because not only is the product better, okay, not only is it priced better, but it gives rewards. So I'll just give you an example. This meeting we're in right now is through a product called Meetin, which is a competitor to Zoom. And so for the exact same pricing, which is about $20 per month, okay, subscription, with Meetin, I get way more storage for my recordings. I get way more seats for more people to attend my meeting. I get way more features to be able to do pop-ups and call to action and to add my presentation directly into it. I've got translation, live translation, to if people want to get Spanish or Japanese or whatever as I'm presenting. All of those things are added into that same $20 a month price. Whereas if I were to do that on Zoom, they make me get third-party add-ins, where if I were to total it all up, it would be almost $500 a month to get the same exact service, okay? And bottom line, Zoom never paid me any rewards. So what did I do? I made the switch. I said, I'm going to go to Meetin because it's a better product, better pricing, and I'm getting daily rewards because it's a micro node that pays out 40 daily rewards just for my subscription. And on top of that, I get paid for the activity. Hosting this meeting, I get an additional 10 rewards just for doing it. So way better opportunity, way better what we call triple advantage situation, right? Where all of the different products and services coming to the table at Cirrus are going to follow that model, where they're better and they're priced better and they pay daily rewards. All right, so let's take a look at the Cirrus Safe, right? Why is it better? $10 a month gets you 6 terabytes of storage, which is 3 times as much as the competition, and it pays out rewards. Okay. 20 daily rewards. And if you just refer somebody, you're going to get an additional 200 rewards. How cool is that? Same thing with the meeting, the $20 per month. And guess what? Now I get all of these benefits, right? Like I mentioned, but not only that, guess what I'm getting? I'm getting 40 daily rewards. Plus, if I refer somebody to meeting, I get 400 rewards and I get 10 rewards per meeting. Plus, just for logging in for the first time, I get 200 rewards. Watching the intro video to get started, I get 200 rewards. And the first time I create one of the widgets, right, I get another 200 rewards. It is super, super lucrative just to start using Meetin. Okay. Now, the other really cool thing about this is there's also now money, because it's one thing to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to get these rewards and, they might be worth this much today. They might be worth that much tomorrow and, maybe a year from now, whatever. But what if I need to make some money right now, right? What if I need to make some money next Friday? Well, guess what? You can do that as an affiliate. Okay. You can be an affiliate or even as an associate of Cirrus. And what that does is it allows you to share the story of blockchain, to share the story of decentralization, and to share these amazing products and services that everybody loves anyway, right? With other people, friends and family and your community. And every time you do that, you get to make 20% of the purchase. So if somebody buys one of the full nodes, well, that's a great big chunk of money right there, right? If somebody just signs up for the Meetin product, guess what? That's $4 that you get to make every month as that person continues to pay the monthly subscription. Okay. Free to join, completely free to join. Earn that 20% on all the orders that you bring to the table. Anybody that you recommend that wants to just come in as a customer, maybe they want to be an affiliate also, right? That's fine. Okay. Whoever you personally invite, you get to make that 20% on. But also, if you're an associate, you get to earn on the people that they bring and the people that they bring and the people that they bring. For 6 generations of referral, you get to earn a percentage of all the orders, right? Whether they're buying nodes or they're paying for their subscription or whatever it is, right? You get to earn on all of that every single month. Okay. So lots of ways to make money up front while we build the community and wait for the rewards to accumulate more value. All right. So here's the other thing that happens too. When you refer somebody to buy a full node or a half node or quarter node or a mini node, you're also getting rewards for that. Okay. Every time somebody buys a node, you get rewards besides the commissions. Okay. Now, here's some examples. Let's say you enroll 3 people who bought a full node. Well, guess what? Because you did that, there's actually an extra 10% of each sale that kicks in once you reach $1,000 in sales. And now it's 30%. Okay. So your total earnings would be about $360 times 3, or over $1,080, right? 720 of which would be paid the following Friday. And then 10% is the following month, right? But that's $1,080 every month just for introducing 3 people to the project and having each of them buy a node. But you also get 2,000 rewards. So that's an additional 6,000 rewards right there. Now, if we do the math on 1 cent, that would be an extra $60. At 10 cents, another 600. And at $1, that could be worth $6,000, right? Now, again, this is just a disclaimer. This is an example. The rewards could be less or more. It just depends, right? And in all reality, it'll probably take time for them to potentially go up in value. Okay. So here's another example. Let's say you just want to get customers on the services, right? Maybe you're not good at selling nodes. Maybe, you're not finding people that have that much money, and, that's fine, because, hey, guess what? The subscriptions are awesome. They have that triple threat, right? They're amazing products that are priced better, and they pay out daily rewards. So shouldn't be hard to find people. Well, guess what? If you get 20% of that monthly subscription on Meetin, that's $4 per person. So with 10 subscribers, that could be an extra $40 a month just for telling 10 people about it. Okay. And if you just keep doing that, right, every month you set a goal. Hey, I'm going to introduce this to another, 10 people or whatever. Guess what? You could get to 100 subscribers, an extra $400 a month. But here's the other cool thing. You're also getting the rewards on that, okay, which could turn into, at 1 cent, $40, 10 cents, 400, and at $1, that would be worth $4,000. Pretty amazing, just for inviting people to use a service that they were going to pay for anyway. That's better. And then here's real world example number 3. You're an associate building a team, and you want to have 100 volume each month so you can qualify for the commissions, right, on the multiple levels, multiple generations. So your main goal is to make sure you're in profit so that it's not coming out of pocket, right? Well, what if you followed a strategy of 3 is better than free? Okay, so here's how you do it. So you would enroll your top 3 leaders, okay? You just find 3 people that you just know also want to work with you and want to go out and earn some extra money. So you help them to duplicate what you're doing. So they're going to buy, well, first of all, you buy a mini node for $100, right? And a Meetin subscription at $20, okay? And they're going to do the same thing. So what happens? Well, with the first 3, you're going to earn $30 per mini node. So there's 90. And then you're also going to earn 4 for every Meetin subscription. So there's another 12, right? So guess what? You now have $102, which is more every month than what your mini node costs. Right? How cool is that? And then you duplicate that three times. So you help those 3 do the same thing, right? So they're getting in profit and they're duplicating their. So now you have 3 and then 9 and then 27 and so on. And very soon, you now are making over $500 per month or more. Okay. And over time, this continues to build and duplicate exponentially with no cap on potential earnings. Tens of thousands of dollars or more of potential, or tens of thousands or more of potential customers, which is tens of thousands of dollars worth in your organization, because you have now the power of duplication, the power of leverage as it continues to grow. All right. So it all comes down to timing. As we talked about in the beginning, this is new, right? But the world is becoming decentralized. Almost everything is going to be using blockchain technology in the near future. So we are pioneering this category creating concept of digital landlordship. We're introducing the concept of blockchain to people before they even know what it is, right? And through services that they're using already. Okay. So now they're seeing these digital rewards. Now they're seeing how they can actually be rewarded for a product that they were using anyway that's priced better and has more features. And now they're excited. Now they're curious. And now they want to know more and be part of this amazing digital future. 93% of the world has yet to adopt any kind of blockchain technology. So your timing could not be better. You're in at the very beginning of something that's going to change the world. So the future is now, actually. Secure your place, right? It couldn't be a better time. You join this global community where we're here to support you. You embrace that sovereignty, that transparency, the power of participation. You contribute to a decentralized future for all. You're saying no to the big tech, right? And yes to your future. You can start today to be a digital landlord with daily reward payout for as little as $10 a month. Okay. So get back to whoever invited you to watch this. Ask your questions, get your answers, and join us. We're here to support you. We're here to answer any questions you have. We truly believe that this will be the funnest blockchain project that you could ever be part of. And you're lucky enough to have heard about it right now. All right, that is it for today. Thanks so much for jumping on. Hopefully that was helpful for all of you. And please reach out if you have any questions. We're here to support you in any way we can.